Hello, everyone. Folks are joining. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? So depending on which part of the world you're joining in from, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Sanmay. I'll be your host for this chat and learn today. And I'm the program manager here at Power to Fly. And we will today demystify how to talk, and we'll talk about how to overcome bias at work. So before we move forward and, go introduce our speaker and go towards the meaty part of this session, I'll go through a couple of housekeeping rules and then we'll begin with the session. So, all right, this is intended to be an interactive session. So we urge you all to participate, turn your cameras on and ask questions directly to our speaker. You can use the raise a hand feature that's available on the bottom bar of the Zoom to raise your hand and, we'll let you ask your question directly to our speaker. If you're feeling a little bit shy today, you can use the chat feature as well. So just make use of the Zoom chat feature and, put your question there. We expect a lot of questions from you. So make use of this opportunity and interact with our speaker today. This session is being recorded. And if due to some reason you're not being able to attend live or attend for the full duration, we will send you an email with the entire recording. Write us in the chat and keep us in the loop in the social media channels. So take screenshots, tag us in our social media channels at the rate Powerfly and at the rate Gainsight, and we will make sure to engage with you. All right. So with that being said, let's move on to our partner today. So this chat today is brought to you in association with Gainsight. Gainsight is world's leading customer success platform. So make sure to follow Gainsight on Power to Fly. And once you follow Gainsight on Power to Fly, you would be able to see the opportunities that they're hiring for. They currently have about 50 plus jobs listed on their site. So make sure to get to know more about their opportunities. So with that being said, we will move now to our amazing speaker in the room. We'll talk about, welcome Aditya. So Aditya is an experienced leader with 9+ years of valuable experience in client-facing roles. He has a diverse portfolio of expertise in project management, IT service management, business analysis, process improvement in A+ companies. He's a national level para power lifter, certified fitness trainer, and published poet. He developed Strengthor, an initiative to promote strength amongst the physically challenged through multifaceted lens. So welcome, Aditya. We are so honored to have you with us here. And I know that was a glimpse of your intro. So in your words, just let us know more about you and, your journey so far.
My journey so far has been incredible. Started my career in 2007. So it's been over a decade that I've been working as a professional, and started my initiative Strengthor in 2020. So that's like a side hustle that I have. So been about three years there, also 2 years there, starting that hustle as well. And it's been an incredible journey working with different companies and also working on my initiative, which is to promote strength among physically challenged. And that is from all perspectives, physical, mental, and emotional stuff.
Absolutely. You're definitely an inspiration. I was going through your LinkedIn and your bio and, the kind of expertise that you have, and that's mind-boggling. So moving on, talking about the subject of this chat and learn, tell me more about, what the meaning of the word unconscious bias, because, many people perceive it differently. So what's your perception of how does how does unconscious bias look like, and what does it feel in the workspace?
Very simply put, unconscious bias is when people make assumptions of our abilities by judging our disabilities, right? Being a wheelchair user, people make a lot of perceptions about what I can do, what I cannot do, and that kind of translates into their perception of what I can do from the professional front as well, or even in the personal life, right? So it is how people perceive a disabled person. Um, Very simply put, a wheelchair user, a person like me who's paralyzed waist below, the only challenge for me is I cannot walk. Mentally,
True,
emotionally, upper body strength, it's all in perfect shape, right? So,
true,
but people try to perceive that as an overall challenge in terms of having challenge in terms of living my life, uh, being able to work and being able to meet responsibilities in other areas of life, which I feel is how the unconscious bias starts.
true. Absolutely, completely agree with you. And there is, at least from where we stay, in India, there is this widespread notion that, people take everything in face value rather than, reading into someone's abilities and all things. So moving on, tell us more about, what are
Honestly,
the
sorry to
challenges?
interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I don't think people take things on face value as well. Because if people take
Mhm.
things on face value, they would see my achievements, all that I've achieved in life.
True.
But they
Absolutely.
actually don't see that as well. So
True.
I agree to disagree on that statement. People don't see the face value as well, because if you see the face value, you will see me as an accomplished professional having more than a decade years of experience. You would see me as a medal winning para powerlifter. You would see me as a national champion. You would see me as a published poet, and you
Absolutely.
would see me as a certified fitness trainer. But people don't tend to see that.
Absolutely agree. For somebody, who is in their early stages of career, and since you are currently so accomplished, and as you rightly mentioned, when somebody currently sees all the accolades that you mentioned, but for somebody who is starting their career and with a disability, so what negative impact can unconscious bias have on their personal development, and how we can overcome from that?
See, the first step of overcoming any bias is recognizing your own strength. The major
Absolutely.
challenge that I see in the people today is with the people who have physical challenges themselves. There are a lot of people out there who fall into a very easy trap of self pity,
Mhm.
and they look over their challenges as major roadblockers rather than simply a challenge that needs to be overcome. It is just a matter of perspective that one needs to have in terms of self-analyzing your own strengths and your weaknesses. And when you're analyzing your strength and weaknesses, you have to put yourself, measure yourself against the same yardstick as you would measure someone else,
True.
right? So that's
Absolutely.
where I feel is the major challenge.
And so talking about the notion of that you mentioned, avoiding self-pity. So sometimes, even as persons ourselves, we have some unconscious biases ourselves, within ourselves that we often overlook. So how would you advise checking in on ourselves to identify our own biases and to grow out of them?
The best way to overcome any bias is to talk about it. The
Mhm.
problem with everyone, or I would not say everyone, but majority of the people today is we fear having an open and honest communication.
True.
Like I always encourage people who are working with me, if they have any question about my disability or
Mhm.
anything that they feel might be a challenge for me, to be open and talk to me about it rather than having any assumptions. And
True.
at the same time, it also depends on the person whom you're talking to. So if I'm asking people to being open and honest and talking to me about the challenges or the biases that they feel in their mind, I should also be open minded enough to not feel offended by it, and
Mhm.
rather tackle it in a very mature and practical way rather than having an emotional response to what people feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ensuring a two-way honest communication is definitely the key there. So tell me more about, with 9+ years of corporate experience that you have, from the starting days to now that you're an accomplished, you're accomplished in so many arenas. How has the experience and how has the support from the leadership evolved over the years? Or for folks who are team leaders at their organizations, what steps can they take to ensure an inclusive environment for their teams, and everybody feels heard, irrespective of any scenario?
I would say that I've been very blessed to have worked with some wonderful leaders, and apart from few instances here and there, I have never faced bias with my leaders, at least. Definitely, I've faced some bias with the peers, but from the leadership point of view, I have had some wonderful leaders who have always had faith in my capabilities, and that has helped me grow. And in terms of ensuring that we disarm the biases that creep in, uh, I think one needs to be harsh on themselves. And when I say harsh on themselves, this harshness is not because we are physically challenged. It's a very simple thing. If you want to shine like a sun, you have to burn like a sun. So if you don't burn like a sun, you will never shine like a sun. And it applies to anyone, be it a physically challenged person or an able-bodied person. So don't be lenient on yourself, be harsh to yourself, always strive for growth. And from there on, the road should not be that difficult.
Absolutely. Another, just touching upon the thing that you mentioned, having an honest two-way communication with the leadership and, with your teammates, so that there is no bias that creeps in during those conversations. So talking on that a little bit, sometimes people who are in physically disadvantaged situation, they fear that, having that conversation might risk losing their jobs, or, might lead to an uncomfortable outcome. So what would be your advice to how to have those conversations honestly and without fear, or, without the fear of judgment? So how should we go about having those conversations?
First, shift of mindset is something that we need to have among ourselves. Just like you said, physical disadvantage. I don't use the word disadvantage because I don't work in a company on the basis of my capability to work. I work in a company on the basis of my mental strength, right? I've been hired because of the skill set that I possess or the intellect that I possess. So I do not have any disadvantage when working in a company. Now, few things where, and this is something that even I'm guilty of, trying to overcompensate because I am a physically challenged person in terms of working when I'm sick, or probably not taking leaves because thinking what people will think. Again, it's a shift of mindset that we need to have in our minds to understand that just like anybody else gets sick, we also get sick, right? And just like anybody else right to take leaves without being judged, we also have the right to take leaves without being judged. So understanding these basic nitty-gritties, where whether you're falling sick, or whether you are taking leaves for some personal exigency or whatever, it has nothing to do with your disability. You are hired for your mental strength, or for your capabilities, for your intelligence, and for your experience, and giving your best to the job, and taking everything else as it comes, rather than overthinking.
Absolutely. All right. So we have a question we have a pre-submitted question from one of our participants.
Right.
I see that you have plenty of experience in client-facing roles. How would you address bias when it comes from your customers?
So it's about putting out a face, or a first impression that kind of disarms that bias in the first place. So for example, you will say that my display pic has a picture of me wearing several medals, right? Or I would put in a picture where I would be very professionally dressed, right? So, and when I deal with clients, I start with talking about my achievements. I don't talk about my limitations, because that is something which is not related to work, which is not
Absolutely.
something that they should be concerned about. So I don't even talk about that. I put forward a phase that is something that they should be seeing, and of an achiever, of a professional. And
True.
from there, if you don't talk about your disability because it's not needed, it will never come in your way.
Absolutely, absolutely. I really love the anecdote that you shared, that no need to go about the things that don't matter in that particular
Exactly.
situation. Absolutely. I really love that. All right. And, in all the things, in all the capacity that we are, that a corporate situation requires work out of, they are mental, they are mental ability related. And, none of them warrant any information about, your physical ability or disability. So absolutely love that anecdote and, the shift of thought. So thank you so much for that, Aditya. All right.
Thank you.
So moving on, another question is, what are some practical ways in which employees can advocate for themselves to ensure that, their career development is guaranteed? Because often, there might be some unconscious overlooking when it comes to career progression. So how do we ensure that, that career progression is not hindered? And how do we make the leadership understand of this thing?
To make the leadership understand and ensure that your career progression is not hindered, it goes back to the basics in terms of proving yourself.
True.
Uh, Prove your abilities, go above and beyond, just as it would be expected by any other person, right? If I
Hmm.
show myself as the top of the batch, right, why
True.
would anyone have a reason to not promote me? Why would
Hmm.
anyone have a reason not to hire me?
True.
So rather than thinking about what I should do to disarm these biases, the shift should be towards a more positive thought in terms of what should I do to prove myself.
Absolutely.
Right. So once you start thinking from the positive aspect of it, that what should I do to prove myself, it's very simple. If you prove yourself to be better than others,
Hmm.
there's no way that any company or any person would stop you from growing.
Absolutely. Love that, Aditya. So another, just touching down on that a little bit, on the topic of advocating ourselves, how can we advocate for ourselves while maintaining healthy boundaries? I often feel that I need to prove myself to others, and that leads me to have little to no work-life balance. So, sometimes in the quest for proving yourself, we can go over and beyond what's expected of us. And that's good in one way, but, that often might hamper the work-life balance. So how to have a balance of both the worlds and, keep, keep at it.
A very simple answer to that: consider yourself as human being as you consider others. You are a human being yourself, and just like anybody else, right?
True.
Uh, Other people have their own set of challenges. You have your own set of challenges. Don't beat yourself down just because you have certain challenges that others don't. Everybody has their own different set of challenges, which probably hinders them at times, but at the same time allows them to push forward and grow as well. Measure yourself against the same yardstick as you would do others, right? Do not be too harsh on yourself. Consider yourself human beings and just keep pushing forward.
Absolutely. So moving on, I want to talk to you more about, in your career, in your span of working in the corporate sector. So what do you think, what do you think companies and, leadership can do more in terms of corporate policy or other steps to make sure that these unconscious biases are not allowed any space to grow? And what other steps can the leadership or the companies can take to make the arena more inclusive?
One of the things that I feel that companies can do better is, I mean, all companies have those policies around unconscious biases and everything to take actions against those unconscious biases. But more than having those policies, it is awareness that needs to be created more, because most of the times we are not aware of all the company policies that exist around handling these unconscious biases. That's one. And having more sensitization sessions wherein people are sensitized as to what exactly is unconscious bias and how it creeps up and how to tackle that. And when I think it's more important when you're talking about these unconscious biases, when you have these sensitization sessions, they should be taken by people who actually face those biases.
Okay.
Rather than the people who probably don't face those biases. For example, if
Absolutely.
you're talking about unconscious bias against physically challenged, then the sensitization session should be taken by a physically challenged. If you talk about unconscious bias against women, then the sensitization session should be taken by women, and like that. So people who face those biases, because they are the only ones who can actually identify the signals and tell other people that, this is where it's going wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that makes sense, right? Rather than having somebody who is just, learning theoretically, it's better to have somebody who has walked the path and walked down the path and,
Exactly.
has seen all those, minute differences that somebody, that some folks might not even understand that, okay, this might constitute unconscious bias as well. So it's better to have somebody, who has seen it all and, impart that knowledge to sensitize others on this sensitive issue. So,
It actually ties back to the point that I made earlier, like, don't make assumptions about the challenges that I have, because only I know sitting in my wheelchair what challenges I have. So don't
True.
assume, ask me. Same goes for sensitization. Don't assume, ask me, and I'll let you know.
Absolutely. Yes. All right. So moving on, how can we demonstrate the negative effect of bias to business leaders so that, they acknowledge the urgency of having company-wide policies? This is just doubling down on, what we just discussed to address unconscious biases. So how to show the leadership, the urgency of this issue?
It's about, so urgency is, I mean, see, as I mentioned earlier, the policies are already there. Sensitization sessions do happen, probably not to an frequency that I would want them to happen, but yes, they do happen, right? Uh, the, there's no urgency as such, uh, but yes, I think whenever there's a physically challenged person in the team, I think it is the responsibility of that person to have that honest one-to-one discussion with his leader, with his or her leader, that what might constitute as an unconscious bias and how to disarm that within the team first. I mean, you have to start with your own team, with your own peers before you go on to going on a company-wide mission to disarm that bias, right? So start small with your own team and then take it forward, spreading by having sessions, sensitization sessions, learning about policies. One of the things that I recommend other people who are in a similar situation as me is getting involved in DEI activities yourself. Now, one of the things that I've noticed in many companies is that we all have those DEI initiatives wherein in the main core committee, you have a DEI community for physically challenged, but you will see there's no physically challenged person in that community.
True.
So you need to have, if you want to have a DEI community, right? You need to have people who relate to that community in terms of, if it's a physically challenged, you need to have more physically challenged people in the core committee. If it's for women, you need to have more women in the core committee.
Absolutely. So yesterday, we had at part of live, we had our DEIB summit, and we were talking about microaggressions. So what's your opinion around, what's the connection between unconscious bias and microaggressions?
I did not understand what that micro.
Aggressions, microaggressions.
Okay. Uh, so could you elaborate a little bit more, like what exactly are we trying to ask here?
So basically, microaggressions is the term that's associated with which is not a full-fledged aggression, but little connotations or behaviors that constitute aggression in the workplace. So, do you think there is a connection between microaggression and unconscious bias?
So
That is my question.
aggression within people like me or others?
That could be like in the common workplace within within the entire strata of workplace. So do you think like having a disability makes folks more susceptible towards microaggressions in the workplace, or vice versa? So yeah.
It does, because see, the pressure is on both sides, right?
True.
From our side, the pressure is that we have this dire need to prove ourselves more than others, because to trying to overcome that notion that being disabled, I am probably less capable. And from other side, the pressure on them is that they want to make sure that they don't unknowingly do or say anything that probably hurts the sentiment of a physically challenged person. So that unsaid aggression or probably tension is
True.
always there. And that is the reason I always say that always have upfront and honest communication rather than keeping things under the blanket. Because more you keep things under the blanket, you will have those micro aggressions from both parties.
Absolutely. Just confront it and clear the things then and there. Absolutely love that.
Exactly. Just confront and clear the things then and there. Be little less emotional about confronting things. Be practical. Like,
Oh,
don't attach emotions to everything.
absolutely. That's very difficult to do in practice, but yeah, I'd love to know, some of your tips how to do that. Um, so
I
we
also learned
have
it the hard way.
so we have some questions in the chat. So Marsha asks, what happens when the biases are perpetrated by the people in charge? How do you approach that kind of a situation?
Again, I have faced that situation where the biases are um, perpetrated by people in charge. Some of the unsaid ways of showing biases is not giving me too much work, thinking that I cannot slog, or not giving me challenging work because they feel that I might not be able to live up to it. Like, there are very small ways where people show those unconscious biases, right? So again, whenever you recognize any such signals, it's better to walk up to your leaders and say, hey, I understand that you feel that I might not be up to the challenge, but I am up to the challenge, and just give me an opportunity and I'll prove myself.
True. Having that honest conversation then and there, rather than wrapping it up and dwelling on it for the later time. I love it. All right, so moving on to our next question. So we have a question from Ada. How can you measure in your workplace the unconscious, that the unconscious bias has been decreased, or, like the impact of the unconscious bias training? So how do you measure the impact? What are the metrics you can use to evaluate the level of the unconscious bias in your organization?
How can you measure emotions of people? There's no way to measure emotions of the people, right? What they think, because see, what happens is, unfortunately, irrespective of how many trainings that you have, right, uh, we as human beings are very scared people.
True.
No matter how much we try to tell people to be fearless, we will always have our fears. And when such sessions happen, right, while some of them will understand the sensitivity of that situation, some people might go into that fear that if I say something, I might be taken in a wrong way.
True.
And those people will just keep quiet while having that bias in the back of their mind, right? So there's no set way in which you can measure this. Only thing you can do is being observant and trying to disarm whenever you see a hint of any such bias creeping in by having those honest conversations.
Absolutely. So what would be your tips? We know, that sensitization trainings can be done at workplaces to, sensitize folks on this topic. What folks can do at a personal level, amongst their personal circles, to make people understand and make people who are near and dear to them, maybe, work colleagues or friends, how should we make, how should folks make the people in their circle understand more about unconscious bias and how unconscious bias impacts them personally. So what could a person do in their own capacity?
From the perspective of person facing unconscious bias is what you're asking?
Yes, what we can do to perpetrate more awareness amongst our peers, or amongst the folks who are in our own circles or close circles.
I think one point that I've already covered is honest conversation. Second thing is carry yourself in a way that you want others to see you as. So to give you an example, I'm a wheelchair user. Okay. Now, when I go to office, it's a very normal tendency for people to offer to push my wheelchair. But whenever any such thing happens, I stop them. I tell them that if I need help, I'll let you know. So carry yourself in a way which shows you as a confident, self-dependent person who is very able to manage himself, but at the same time, if needs help, will call out for help without feeling guilty about it. It's about the way you carry yourself in your day-to-day life, work life, or personal life is how the people around you will perceive.
True. Absolutely. The way you carry yourself is how you signal the external world to, think of you as, and have a vision of you. Love that.
Yes.
So moving on, how can focusing on our skills, experience, and capabilities help us overcome biases at work? And I'll add on to this question that, how can we, what are your tips to be more mentally resilient to overcome those biases and, sometimes have those honest conversations that you suggested and, see yourselves at an elevated vision or, do not engage in self-pity and the things that you mentioned. So how to have the mental resilience to practice all of these things in real life?
A simple way to practice things is to observe your life, see what you have achieved, right?
True.
And when I say achieved, it doesn't mean that you have to be an accomplished professional winning accolades at work or be a medal winning powerlifter, but simple things in life. If you are able to manage your day-to-day activities yourself, right, it's an achievement.
True.
If you're able to take care of your finances, right, it's an achievement. If you're able to make your own food, if you're able to make your own bed, it's an achievement, right? So measure yourself against what you are able to do independently rather than what you're not able to do, because everybody has an area where they need help, right?
Absolutely.
So to build that positive mindset, you have to focus more about what you can do and rather than not what you can do. And I don't remember the exact quote, but there's this quote by Stephen Hawking. I'm sure we all know Stephen Hawking, right?
Yeah.
So there's a quote by Stephen Hawking which means that you need to focus on what you can do and achieve in life rather than what you cannot do. Because only when you focus on the strengths that you have, the capabilities that you have, will you grow forward in life rather than looking at things that are stopping you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And having that positive outlook and, that hopeful mindset rather than, seeing the negative, connotations. So really love that. And for all of our participants, please make sure to ask all the questions that you have in the chat. And, I'm sure Aditya would be delighted to answer them. So on that
Definitely.
note, I'd love to ask you, more about your fitness journey. So how did you get involved in your fitness regimen? And you're a national level para power lifter. So how did that journey start? What motivated you? Tell us more about that.
So I was always into fitness from the perspective that like my parents inculcated that habit in me very early on, saying that more self-dependent I am, better I will grow in life. So I have been exercising since the age of 16, right? I am
Wow.
close to 40 now. So I have been exercising since the age of 16. However, powerlifting have happened to me not very like it happened to me very recently. I started para powerlifting about only 4 years ago, so probably at the age of
Mhm.
36
Okay.
is when I started para powerlifting, and that also happened accidentally. I would say so. There was this day when I was working out in the gym with my trainer, and he said that let's just check, that how much weight can you lift, how much weight can
Okay.
you bench press, and we tested ourselves, and I was able to bench press 100 kgs.
Wow.
So yeah, so he said that, if you can lift 100 kgs, why don't you take part in competitions?
Hmm.
We laughed it off at that time, and even after that, for some time, I didn't pursue para powerlifting, but probably that thought was always there in the back of my mind. And then when I shifted to Mumbai for a job, I found a mentor, Darika sir, who is also um, considered as the father of para powerlifters in Mumbai. He has
Okay.
made many para powerlifter world champions. So I got in touch with him, and he started training me. And he actually kind of mm, pushed me towards my first competition. And
Okay.
from then, I never looked back.
Wow, that's so inspiring to hear. And yeah, that anecdote that you discovered your powers just by accident. That's so amazing. And you stumbled upon this amazing thing that gave you so many accolades. Also, tell us more about the your venture and your side passion, your side hustle, which is Strength Or. So tell us more about that and how you're empowering and promoting strength among the physically challenged.
So Strengthor stands for Your Strength Mentor.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, it's an online platform wherein I have channel on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherein I post content which would help people understand the mental, physical, and emotional aspect of strength. I record YouTube videos as well and conduct live sessions. At the same time, I invite people, if they want to talk to me about the challenges that they are facing in terms of when it comes to mental and emotional aspect of promoting strength. I do it on a pro bono basis, like I, I don't even charge for it, and I invite anyone and everyone to talk to me about any mental or emotional challenge that they're facing. And we talk through, we understand where the challenges are and how we can overcome it. And definitely conduct lots of sessions, uh, networking with different people who contribute to the physically challenged society, uh, to understand their perspective. And like I said, having sensitization sessions, all that happens on my channel to ensure that people understand different aspects of physically challenged life. But at the same time, the intent of the channel is that every content is made with an intent to end it on a positive note. There is no negativity that is portrayed in that channel. It is always shown as a win-win situation wherein even if you have a challenge, you come out of it as a winner.
Absolutely. And so when did you start this, start Stentor, and how did the motivation for it, what was your motivation for starting this?
So in 2018, I quit my job to pursue para powerlifting full time. And at the same time, because I don't like sitting idle at home, I got myself certified as a fitness trainer as well. So while going from different cities to for my competitions and meeting other physically challenged people like myself, I realized that there's a lot of scope of motivating people who are physically challenged, because I saw that even though there are people who are taking part in competitions and they are athletes, which for me is a big thing, yet they were kind of demotivated in their lives, or probably did not had that sense of achievement of what they were doing. And there was a lot of mental and emotional kind of, you can say, downside that they were having uh, when dealing with their lives. So, and that's where I thought, we should have a platform where people can talk about their challenges without being judged. A kind of an inclusive platform where everyone can talk about without being judged. In fact, this channel recently I have even opened up to the parents of people who are physically challenged. We have a WhatsApp group wherein it is run by my parents, who support other parents who have physically challenged children, to provide mental and emotional support to parents as well. Right. So just that thought of, having an mental and emotional support uh, for everyone to rise above and beyond.
Absolutely. Love that outlook, and, love the vision that you have of supporting, so many people. So my next question is kind of based on how to, after listening about your journey and, after reading about your LinkedIn and, your bio, one thing that's pretty evident is, is the tremendous amount of discipline and self-discipline that you have inculcated. So what would be your advice to folks, and it's a general question, what would be your advice to for folks to inculcate this level of self-discipline and to, stay put in whatever work that you're doing, in whatever arena that you're aspiring for? So what would be your take on that?
First thing, set your goals high. Uh, this is something my parents told me very early on when I was a kid, that if you want to achieve 90% marks in your studies, right, aspire for 95%, then only you will get 90%. So first of all, keep your bar high. Keep your expectations from yourself the highest, from others the lowest. That's the mantra of not getting disappointed, right? Always expect most out of yourself and least out of others. And then once you have a goal, once you have an ambition, once you have raised your bar high, understand that your goal or your ambition is a journey. It's not something that is achieved in a day or two. It's a journey which would be full of ups and downs. And the important thing to realize is it doesn't matter for how many days you were down or how many days you were knocked down. And the importance lies in the fact, for after being knocked down, when how many times did you rise up back again?
Absolutely.
So everybody has good days, everybody has bad days. Yes, on the forefront, it looks that I'm a very disciplined person, but does that mean I don't fall off track? I do. Does that mean that am I crushing my goals every day in the gym? No, I don't. Does that mean that every day I'm crushing my goals at work? No, I don't. It happens to anyone and everyone, right?
Yeah.
It's like a graph. up, down, up, down, up, down. So as long as you don't give up, I think success is inevitable.
Absolutely. Don't give up and, aim for the stars, and you'll definitely land up in the moon. True. So we have another question in my DM. How do you manage consistent maltreatment of boss at work, even though you're very competent and hardworking?
Uh, I have actually never faced any maltreatment at work. I'll be
Mhm.
upfront and honest about it. As I said, that I have been blessed by, in the sense that I have always had wonderful colleagues and wonderful bosses. Definitely, there has never been a boss that has maltreated me. Yes, there have been colleagues who have had that unconscious biases, and my only approach to them has been, I'm very blunt with my words. I don't sugarcoat things. I am never politically correct. I always, if I see an unconscious bias, and if, let's say, you are the person who, just giving an example, if you are the
Yeah,
person
yeah.
who's showing an unconscious bias, you better be ready to listen from my peace of mind as well. And there will be no
Absolutely.
sugarcoating, nothing. I'll put it straightforward.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be, because many a times, sometimes it is intentional, as it's mentioned in this question, and at that point of time it doesn't matter whether or not you sugarcoat, because it's better to let the other person know how you feel and how they have made you feel. And in other cases as well, when it's unintentional, it's better to educate them so that that kind of situation will never happen in the future. So I really love the kind of approach that
So
you're
there are
advocating for.
two phases approaches that I
Hmm,
use here, right? So
hmm,
when it's intentional,
hmm,
I'm
hmm,
upfront and blunt.
hmm, hmm,
When it's unintentional, I try to have a conversation with that person, trying to
hmm,
understand what their thought process is and why that thought process is. And then I
okay.
have a healthy conversation with the intent to convince the other person to disarm that bias. But when
Yeah,
it's intentional, then
yeah,
it's upfront.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's the way it should be. All right. So, just talking about this notion of intentional versus non-intentional and bias behavior. So, how do you kindly address bias behavior or language used by your loved ones? So, how to, like, what are some of your tips to how to call them out and have that healthy conversation, with how what is the way to have that conversation?
So I'll give you an example. I'll not name the company or the person, but there was this time I was working in one of the companies, and I had mild fever, because of which I took a leave, right?
Mhm.
And the next day, this person asks me, "Do you always fall sick?" And
Mhm.
that was when I had taken only one leave in that entire 1 year.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, and so I asked him, like, why do you feel that I'm always sick? I only took one leave in the last 1 year. So
Mhm.
he kind of got taken aback by that question, and there was no rudeness in my tone or anger in my tone, just casually. Why do you think that,
Mhm.
considering that I've only taken one leave in a year, what makes you think that I'm always sick? So sometimes just asking that simple question instead of getting into an argument kind of disarms the other person and makes them realize that, and I feel, rather than having an argument, uh,
Mhm.
a counter question as to why do you feel this way is the most
Mhm.
efficient way of disarming someone.
Absolutely. That makes them think, what was the reason for their statement. And, that lets them see their bias for themselves, rather than you showing the mirror. So yeah, absolutely love that approach. Yeah, that's definitely a good way, cross, and that's applicable for other situations of life as well. Whenever you feel there is an argument brewing, you can just ask them for their question, and that sets them in the back foot, and kind of understanding the rationale behind the statement. And most of the situations, folks who don't have any negative intentions in their mind, they would be able to see what was the logic and why that would bother somebody. So yeah, that.
And even the folks, those who have negative intentions, they would also be on their guard because they don't want to show themselves as negative person.
Absolutely. Love that. All right. So with that note, so moving on to another question. So how have you harnessed your work growth and fulfillment? Any advice for those who are feeling unmotivated at work?
Motivation is something that you draw from within, right? You have to be self-motivated. Nobody can motivate you if you don't put in efforts in your own life, right?
True.
I can have YouTube channel, Instagram and whatnot, and I can give as many talks as I want. But ultimately, the responsibility of being motivated lies within yourself. You have to realize where your life is going. If you're not motivated, you have to realize the downhill part of not being motivated and the upside part of being motivated, what you can achieve and what you are losing out on if you're not motivated and not delivering your best. It is a process of self-realization that everybody has to undertake. It's not easy confronting yourself. It's very easy to confront others, but it's not easy confronting yourself. It's not easy looking at your own flaws. It's not easy, taking steps to remove those flaws. But the only way to sustain and grow in life is to work on yourself.
Absolutely. And yeah, I really love that anecdote. And there was this quote that I read, I don't know, somewhere, I don't remember the author. The quote was something like, motivation doesn't last, and so does bathing. So that's why, you have to bathe every day, and, you have to keep yourself constantly motivated. So there's no one-time pill, motivation pill that, you can swallow and, that will give you effects for the entire duration of life. So you have to pick yourself up, and you have to stay at it. So on talking about this note, picking yourself up and doing what's right for you, many people, including me, and most of the folks out there, we struggle with procrastination. We know what's right for us, and what should be done. We know the right path, but when it comes to actually pursuing it, there's some invisible force within, that keeps us from, taking that right step and, going after a goal. So how do we keep procrastination at bay and, kind of go after our goals and keep ourselves motivated? So how do we make that happen?
I think I can answer that very nicely because I am someone who procrastinates a lot. So I'll be very upfront and honest about it. I do procrastinate a lot. So the way I have found a way out of my procrastination is I set deadlines, which kind of create a pressure on me to complete certain things that I need to do. Because I have realized that I may procrastinate to whatever extent I want to, but if I know that I have something to do and if I don't do, it is going to eat me more than my procrastination. So it is something that we all have to discover ourselves, that what works for us. We all procrastinate, and you cannot stop yourself from procrastinating. If you tell someone that, stop thinking, you're actually telling them to shut the brain off, which is actually practically not possible. So what is possible is to find ways to distract your mind and go towards what you need to do.
True. Absolutely. Setting deadlines definitely helps. All right. So moving on, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, 20 years in the memory lane, what would it be and why?
Be more fearless, take more risks. And this is not even for my younger self, it is even to my older self, because there's no age for growing, I believe.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter at what age you are, you have to learn to be fearless. You have to understand that life is all about achievements as well as failures. So don't be afraid of failing. Take risk, fail, rise again, fail, rise again. There will come a time when you will succeed.
Absolutely. Just stay at it and stay put. Thank you so much, Aditya. So we are here at the last stretch of the session. We are the last 5 minutes. So folks, if you have any questions, this is the chance. So make sure to populate that chat box with your questions, and we will move towards a segment, an interesting segment of Chat and Learns, getting real with Aditya. So tell us, and here, we'll know more about you in real life and, your workplace and, your inner circle in a moment. So first question, first of all, are you ready for it, Aditya? Shall we begin?
Yes. Ready.
All right. So first question, how would you describe the culture at Gainsight in one word?
Human first. I mean, this is one company where I see that they advertise people first, human first approach, but a lot of companies advertise it, but this is one company that I feel has actually nailed it and are actually human centric, not even in terms of policies, but I don't know how they do it, but the culture that everybody has here, the mindset that everybody has here is human first, and they take every person as a human being rather than not as someone who is getting them paychecks.
Absolutely. Love that. So moving on, what's your favorite part about working at Gainsight? So just tell us more about that.
So I work in a customer success profile, but working in customer success profile, I get to interact with sales team, I get to interact with product team, I get to interact with marketing team. So because of the diverse teams that I interact with on a day-to-day basis, every day is a new learning experience, and there's never a dull day in Gainsight where you're not learning something new. So that is the best thing that I like about working here.
Absolutely. And for folks who want to, who imagine their next job at Gainsight and, who are interested in opportunities at Gainsight, what are your top tips for somebody who is interviewing at Gainsight?
I would say be yourself. Like this is one company where when I interviewed, I realized that you don't have to stick to talking only about what is there in your resume. You can actually talk about your personal life achievements. You can talk about other things, your passions and everything. You can be yourself and expect to be accepted and accept to be, the company culture that we have here is that we expect everyone to bring themselves, like in terms of your achievements, what you want to do apart from work, what all things you want to get involved in, what all different sides of you want to show. Like for example, uh, I have channels within the company where I talk about strength, or I talk about my poems, I talk about my wife's book, which recently got published. So everything, I mean, I can talk about anything and everything, and it's accepted and liked by people.
Absolutely. Love that, that Gainsight fosters such an amazing workplace environment. And with that, thank you so much, Aditya, for, providing us with so many nuggets of wisdom about life, about kind of ushering yourself in the corporate environment. And it was my honor to interview you today and get to know so many things from you. Thank you so much. And will please let us know how we can get connected with you further. Maybe your LinkedIn or any other venues with which our participants can get connected with you.
You can find me on LinkedIn with the name Aditya Mandan, and you can also get connected with me through my initiative Strength Thought. It's STRENTOR. I mean, I can send you the links and you can send it to every participant out there. That initiative is there on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. And even I have a website in case somebody wants to get physically fit. I provide online training for that as well. So yeah, a lot of different ways that you can get connected to me. I mean, I can drop an email with all the links to the email thread that is already running, and you can share it with anyone and everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aditya, for speaking with us here today and, letting us know on so many nuggets of wisdom and, your life experiences. And for all of us, for all of our participants, make sure to follow Gainsight on Power to Fly, check out all their open opportunities. And the information that Aditya, the contact information about Aditya, we will be sharing that with you or via mail. So you can get in touch with get in touch with Aditya and, get more learnings from him. So thank you so much, Aditya, and we look forward to hosting you in our future sessions as well. Thank you so much.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
All right.